Guys, I've been talking a lot about men's designer fragrances lately as there have been some very interesting launches as of late, like Dior Homme Parfum 2025, Dolce & Gabbana's Devotion pour Homme, both of which were very underwhelming and disappointing. But there have been some great fragrances within the last couple of years that I wanted to highlight here in a video of men's designer fragrances that I consider 10 out of 10. So these are some of the best fragrances. You're going to find out what they are coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian, talking to you about some of the best men's designer fragrances out there on the market today. These are 10-10 fragrances. I consider them 10 out of 10. Some of the most amazing men's designer fragrances out there. Sadly, we can't include Dior Homme Parfum anymore on this list. The original, the 2020, or even the 2014, as I don't consider the Dior Homme Parfum 2025 as one of the best. And so I've left that fragrance off the list. But if you can find the originals from the 2020 or 2014, please get them, because the 2025 edition sucks. I don't like it whatsoever. It's cheapened up. But I've got really great fragrances here that I consider some of the best men's designer fragrances. And if you only buy men's designer fragrances and you just tuned into this channel, these are some of the fragrances you want to check out. There's a couple of technicalities here. I only feature one brand in this list. So if I featured one fragrance from one brand, I don't feature that brand again. Also, a couple of fragrances are not necessarily considered designer, like Guerlain and Caron, but I put them here because they usually sell with the designer fragrances, and they're not technically considered what the niche fragrance houses as of late are. So let's get started with the list. Going to the house of Jean Paul Gaultier. It is Le Male ELIXIR. So I still don't have the Le Male ELIXIR ABSOLU yet. I gotta get my nose on that ASAP. But the Le Male ELIXIR, the one that came out a couple of years ago, is super amazing. Now it is sweetened up. It's much sweeter than the original Le Male, which also combined vanilla. I would call that an amber fougere. This is like an amber fougere as well, but I feel like this is much more sweetened up and more ambery and resinous, whereas the original is more like aromatic and spicy and vanillic as well. Here we've got lots of tonka, mint, lavender, benzoin, and vanilla. It's also super long lasting. It's intense, great projection, an amazing sillage, and definitely one of the best men's designer fragrances out there. It sure has been sweetened up though, but also the aromatics are quite strong as well. If you like this kind of a fragrance, check it out. If you like the original, but you like it sweeter, check this one out. I think you're going to enjoy this one, especially for the fact that it's very long lasting and also smells great. It is on the sweet side though, I keep stressing that. Whatever you see here, the golden color is what you experience with the fragrance. I think they've captured the color of the bottle with how the fragrance wears. So it's very golden and ambery, also aromatic and spicy. But the second fragrance I'm going to recommend is Hugo Boss's Boss Bottled ABSOLU. Remember I said there's only one from one brand, so the ELIXIR is not here, the ABSOLU is. And the ABSOLU is my favorite, followed by the ELIXIR from the same collection, Boss Bottled. Boss Bottled ABSOLU is super sexy, really great, very long lasting, and I love what they have done with this. They've taken the Boss Bottled DNA, which hardly exists here, into this new kind of earthy, woody, spicy, smoky direction. And the combination is super amazing, very long lasting. People ask you what you're wearing and that kind of thing. So it's a compliment getter for sure. Because even though this is not as strong as the Le Male ELIXIR, I still consider this to be very long lasting and also lingering, because the patchouli has great lingering power. It's an earthy woody note and it clings on and stays on skin, and you know, with your body heating up a little bit, it starts projecting off of you, and you know, you'll garner some compliments or the attention of somebody that might like the way you're smelling. But the Boss Bottled ABSOLU is super amazing. If you like it woody, spicy, and ambery, smoky, definitely check out the ABSOLU. I think you're going to enjoy it. So the next fragrance is a bit of an older fragrance from the house of Gucci. Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme. I was going to go with the ELIXIR. I do prefer this one more than the other. Absolutely love this. It's like they don't make men's fragrances like this anymore. It's super masculine, super savory, not sweet whatsoever. A lot of these fragrances will be sweet. This one doesn't get sweet. It's all woods, it's all leather, it's animalic, it's a bit musky, and it's a daring fragrance for a designer, and I'm so glad they released this. It's amazing. The Elixir is also great, guys. It is. It's a really, really great fragrance, but I consider this to be paying tribute to some of the fragrances that I grew up with in the 80s, because this came out in the late 2010s, and I think it was a bit of a shock when I first sampled it, but I really enjoy this kind of a fragrance. It's really, really great. Alberto Morillas did a great job, and I consider the Gucci Guilty Pour Homme Absolu or Absolu Pour Homme the best in the series, and definitely something that you should check out. It's definitely a 10/10, but it's not for people that don't like fragrances that are not sweet. This is not a sweet fragrance, so if you're into the idea of sweeter fragrances, this might be a complete turnoff. If you're not familiar with fragrances that are coming off animalic, this might be a turnoff. But if you like these kind of fragrances and you like fragrances that might hint at the classics that your dad might have worn, definitely something you should check out. The other thing I want to say before I move on, this is probably on the chopping block. So if you are into the market for something like this, get it now, because many other Gucci Guilty fragrances have been discontinued. Like the cologne is gone. That was also a favorite of mine. Really loved it. So different. So different. And I have a feeling, since this is not on the Gucci website, it might be on the chopping block. But it's definitely one of the best on the market right now. It's a 10/10 fragrance. Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme. And now we're back to another sweet fragrance. Don't worry, I've got sweet fragrances here. This is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme Parfum. Oh man, if you like the original, this is a much more luxurious, intense take on the original. It has just been amplified, intensified, overdosed with this major ginger and cardamom combo. That combo is so intoxicating, so delicious. There's also tonka here, vanilla, ambery notes. It's sticky, it's ambery, it's gooey, it's spicy, zingy, and an amazing fragrance. Really love it. Really, really taken the original Noir Extreme to a much more luxurious and intense direction, and it smells amazing. One of the best from Tom Ford, one of the best from the men's signature line of fragrances from Tom Ford. It is sweet though. It's not like a very classic style masculine offering. They don't have those anymore. But if you're looking for something super potent, intense, kind of gourmand-esque, this is definitely one to try. That is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme Parfum. An amazing fragrance, guys. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's a 10/10. All right, the first technicality of the video, it's Guerlain. Yes, I am putting Guerlain here in the video of men's designer fragrances, because back in the old days, there was no niche. This was part of the designer's world. Even though they don't make clothing, cars, jewelry, blah, 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 I think I still consider this a designer. But it's Guerlain's Habit Rouge Parfum. Definitely one of the best fragrances ever created from the flankers of Habit Rouge. And they've intensified it. They've made it sweeter and boozier. And still, you have the DNA of the original here, but it's much more modern. Some people still find this very classical, because the original DNA is classic, but like I said, they've made it into more of a modern take on it with the vanilla, the rum, and the patchouli. But it's a long-lasting, super amazing take on the original fragrance. It's definitely one of my favorite in the Parfum series, and I'm anticipating the spirit version that's like coming very, very soon. I've received one more photo, but I'm not going to keep posting photos that people are sending me of their bottles of spirit. Why hasn't it been announced yet? I don't know. But Guerlain Habit Rouge Parfum is amazing. Spirit, I think it's going to be very, very similar. There might be minute differences, but if you have this, you might not need that. Unless you're a collector, you're going to want to check out the other. But in the meantime, Habit Rouge Parfum, definitely a 10/10. Then we're going to the house of TUMI. It's CONTINUUM. I think hands down, CONTINUUM is the best in the series. It's warmer, it's spicier, it's boozy, it's tobacco, it's ambery, it's powdery, and a bit fizzy as well. It's a bit like a Coca-Cola-esque fizziness, but definitely one of the best men's designer fragrances out there, and they did a great job. They knocked it out of the park. This was the third fragrance that came from this house. First, it was two kind of boring offerings. Then they went all out and gave us something really, really amazing, featuring tobacco leaves. There's suede here, so it's a bit leathery. There's musk, amber, incense, orris, cistus, oud. There's no mention of boozy notes. It comes off boozy for me, and also fizzy. So it's a really great fragrance. If you haven't tried it, please do. I highly consider that one of the best. And then this is also one of the best. This is from the house of Bentley. It's for Men Intense. Are you guys familiar with this? I've gone through so many bottles of this. I sometimes take like a half a bottle and finish it in Europe in a month or month and a half. I just spritz it all on. And this from start to finish is fantastic. And you can get a bottle for like 35, 40 bucks. So it's totally worth having. And even for that price point, I consider it a 10-10 fragrance because it's amazing. It reminds me of a few niche offerings from the niche world, but it all rolled into one in a budget fragrance. And definitely one of the best men's designer fragrances on the market. But it features incense, leather, benzoin, rum, black pepper, patchouli. So it's smoky, it's spicy, earthy, woody, ambery, and of course boozy as well. A bit of leather in there. Fantastic fragrance. It's one of the best men's designer fragrances out there. You've got to get your nose on this one if you haven't. It's Bentley for Men Intense, and definitely a 10-10. Then we're going to the house of Cartier. It's PASHA de Cartier Parfum. Now, I'm a big fan of the original PASHA de Cartier that launched in the early 90s. Very old school patchouli, kind of intense aromatic, spicy, woody fragrance, but they have totally modernized this like 30 years later. It came out 30 years later. And they've, gave it more of an ambery effect and also a boozy, spicy effect here. And they've amped it up with Ambrocenide as well. The original is very old school, but I love it. I love the way that smells. And if you want more of a modern take on it, this is it for you. You've got Ambrocenide here, Sandalwood, boozy liqueur notes, Patchouli, which is a trademark of the original. Hands down, a really, really great fragrance for men out there on the market. It seems like I like boozy fragrances, right? Sweeter, boozier takes on fragrances. This is definitely one of the best. You have the little bit of the, old school touches, but it's a very modern fragrance. If you're into the idea of comparing the original, not the sport or the noir, those are, I don't like those at all, actually. The original from like the early 90s and this one that came out in 2020 are the two best, but this I would consider one of the best men's designer fragrances on the market today. So this is Cartier, PASHA de Cartier Parfum. Check that out if you haven't yet. All right, going to a smaller Italian designer house, Costume National Homme Parfum. You can also go with the original. I feel like the original is also, the eau de parfum is pretty intense, but the parfum is more even luxurious, more ambery, and the cinnamon spicy, kind of clovey, spicy holiday spice vibe that's in here has been boosted up with an overdose of amber and labdanum in the dry down and sandalwood. An amazing fragrance. The original was already amazing, created by Dominique Ropion, and this version is also super fantastic. Just a more luxurious, more intense, more potent take on the original, and the DNA I really, really love. To me, it also feels like there's tea. It's a bit cozy. I also get like fruity undertones here. Something in the DNA gives me like stone fruit, like dried stone fruit kind of a undertone. So I'm picking it up when I'm wearing it, but it's smooth, it's loud, it's intense, it's spicy, it's warm, and also ambery. So Costume National Homme Parfum. If you don't know that one, please do check it out. I highly recommend that one. And then this next one, recently I did a video on this house, Brioni's fragrances. I ranked it as the #1 fragrance from Brioni. Definitely deserving to be on this list. It's Brioni Eau de Parfum Intense. So it's a more intense take on the original Brioni Eau de Parfum. This is the second in the series, and they did such a great job on this one. It's an oud fragrance that's wearable, very Western, slight funk in there, but it's been toned down with an overdose of green apple. Super juicy, drippy take on green apple here. Really great fragrance with ambroxan, saffron, patchouli, vanilla, bergamot, tangerine, pink pepper. The original was more ozonic and also violet leaves and ozonic notes. And here they've changed it around. It still comes off a bit ozonic for me, but it's that drippy, juicy green apple note that's in here. You can, notice when you're wearing it. It just comes off fresh and also crunchy, crisp, juicy, fruity apple. Really great against all the other notes. Again, it's a bit like Middle Eastern because they got the oud and the saffron in here, but still very modern and masculine take on a fruity, oudy fragrance. Great fragrance, Brioni Eau de Parfum Intense, one of the best. It's a 10-10. And this is the second technicality. This is Caron's Pour un Homme de Caron Parfum. The original is the classic from almost 100 years ago. This came out last year, 2024. Yeah. And it's just been amplified and intensified. They've overdosed it with a lot of lavender and lavandin and a lot of musky notes, vanillic notes, and ambery notes. It's super potent, very long-lasting take on the original. If you like the original, but you want something more potent, more intense, beefier, you know, longer lasting. Definitely try this one. It's a classic in the end. It's an amber fougere. It's kind of a barbershop fragrance with ambery notes and the dry down vanillic, ambery, musky. And the combo works really, really great. I love lavender in fragrances, and I love it here. This is one of the classics, and my dad used to wear the original, and I can't get enough of the original. And of course, the new Parfum, I find it to be a 10/10, one of the best men's fragrances on the market today. All right, and the last fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of Narciso Rodriguez. It's for him, Bleu Noir Parfum. Yeah, I thought I would forget about this one, but no, I keep coming back to it. There's something very interesting about this fragrance. It's almost like it's like a two-faced. Like there's two different kind of DNAs meshed together. For me, it reminds me of the original Bleu Noir series, but the Parfum has been kind of blended with something that reminds me of the Dior Homme DNA, more like the Dior Homme Intense or the Dior Homme Parfum. So it's almost like I'm wearing Bleu Noir, but all of a sudden the Dior Homme Parfum, Dior Homme Intense kind of DNA kind of takes over and meshes with the other DNA and creates a new fragrance, which is really quite interesting. It's created by Sonia Constant, who also created the Noir Extreme Parfum. And she did such a great job with this one because I really love the Dior Homme Intense Parfum DNA. And I kind of like the original DNA of the Bleu Noir series from Narciso Rodriguez. But when I have the two together, I feel like I'm experiencing two different fragrances at the same time. And they do blend together. It might come off a bit weird, but when you're used to it, it comes together really, really nice. And I like that. It's almost like I said, you're layering two fragrances because you can kind of separate the two styles and then you can kind of blend them together. But I really think this is a great fragrance, and I consider it 10/10. Very unique. Two kinds of fragrances blended into one, but a really, really great fragrance and also very long lasting. And if you like the idea of the original Bleu Noir and also the like the Dior Homme Intense, Dior Homme Parfum kind of DNA, definitely check out Narciso Rodriguez for him, Bleu Noir Parfum. And that's the 12th fragrance for you guys. What are your thoughts on these fragrances? Do let me know. Put a comment down below. Is there something missing? I do need to check it out if I don't have it here, but I consider these some of the best men's designer fragrances on the market today. But if you consider something else the best, do let me know what it is. Put a comment down below. Either way, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.